What's up, everyone? We have another Sunday watch list set up for you so that you can be better informed and prepared for what's to come next week in the stock market. We're continuing to see a ton of volatility in both the broader market as well as in small caps. No matter what you're trading, you will be able to benefit from the information in this video. But first, let's do a quick recap from last week's Sunday watch list to see how things played out from that video. So first off, LGVN was one that I was talking about in the previous watch list. And my main concern for LGVN was the potential of this failed breakout, right? Because if this was truly strong, it really should be able to hold that 13 or the 1550s as support, but it failed to break that out. So on that video, my main thought was that this is a potential backside. And sure enough, we did reject that 1550s on Monday morning. It did sell off and break the support, 1375, so kind of confirming the breakdown. And then from there, all you can really expect that it's going to be mainly short biased. So the smart shorts stayed patient and they shorted back into this retest of 1550s as resistance. And then from there, it had a really big sell-off, right back down to the 10s. Very big move if you're a short seller. And then sure enough, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday morning, they released an offering. So what we typically see is that these companies love to drop offerings after a stock is in backside. So once again, very important that whether you're a long or a short, have an idea of the bigger kind of context of the price action so that you don't get trapped and bagged just because you're focused on the intraday price action, right? Very important to understand the bigger picture in these type of moves. Also, one of the stocks that we talked about in last week's watch list was AMC. Now for AMC, my main kind of thoughts on this one was that, we could potentially see a bounce in this 22 or 2170 area, but because from my thoughts from that video, right, the overall market saw a big kind of FOMO rally, but that FOMO has kind of subsided. Everyone that chased has already chased. So my confidence in this stock's ability to continue and retest the 30s was very unlikely. And sure enough, we just held that downtrend on the hourly, retesting that previous support level in the 24s as resistance. I did lock in some profits into there, sold the rest for break even since there was no follow through. But as far as AMC and the meme stocks go, I don't really think that's going to be too much hype for them. Like I said, everyone that chased did chase, and this should likely sell back off into the low 10s, and then we'll see what happens from there. Also, another one that I talked about in that watch list video was DLPN. Now, DLPN is one that I think is kind of showing us signs that we're going to maybe see a start of an NFT sector rally. And in that watch list video, my main thought was that, we could maybe see a decent bounce just based off of this technical daily chart level right near 545s. And sure enough, if you look at what happened on Monday, we had a very nice bounce right off of that 540 level, right? Kind of textbook wicked off that after the morning sell-off. Had a decent bounce into the previous day high area of 620s, but we overall saw, a failed breakout, retested that previous resistance as resistance again. So then we sold off from there and then broke that support. Now, I will be talking about DLPN for another opportunity, so make sure to stay till the end of this video to see what that trade plan is. So those are kind of the main things we talked about in last week's watch list that are kind of still relevant. Now let's talk about what to expect this week from last week's price action. But real quick, I have to give a disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor. Nothing in this video is a buy or sell recommendation for any security, and this is purely for educational and informational purposes only. Also, quick reminder, my only Instagram accounts are TonyIvanov_ and TradeBuddy__. So be sure to report anyone who is impersonating me. I will never DM you about crypto or, investing for you. So please do not get scammed. But firstly, let's talk about SPY. So honestly, I am still extremely bearish on SPY, especially after Friday's close. Lots of longs got heavily trapped post FOMC news, hoping that the daily 200 would hold as support. But they kept on running into that significant resistance from the hourly chart, which I'll show real quick. You can see this is just a very clear downtrending pattern on the hourly with that previous support in the 450s acting as overall resistance. So now this looks real bad after Friday's close down below the daily 200, because now if you look at the daily chart, this to me just looks like we kind of see confirmation of, we had that breakdown last week down below the daily 200. It tried bouncing, but then it overall failed and rejected. So this looks very bad, and I would not be surprised to see further downwards pressure. We also are seeing CPI numbers come out this week, and just from what I've seen in articles and just in real life, inflation is still really bad. So I would not be surprised to see further downwards pressure in the market. Now, understand that just because that there is downwards pressure, that does not mean that we cannot see bounces. But make sure that you have the bigger picture in mind, right? Because there's a big difference between just a bounce in a bear downtrend or an actual bull market bounce. So make sure to keep an eye on these hourly chart levels. And if you see SPY just bouncing up and retesting previous support as resistance, unless it can successfully break out through that, it's likely going to hold as resistance and then further on downtrend. So just make sure that you have that big picture in mind. So that pretty much covers my thoughts on the broader market. Now let's look at some small caps. So firstly, I have zero interest in SBFM post offering. So, they dumped on the market. They dropped an offering Friday afternoon, and it just panicked off like crazy, broke down into clear backside. And just real quick, just for my own thoughts, right? Obviously, I know everyone has their own ways of trading, but I saw lots of shorts on Twitter kind of complaining that they missed out on that dump and they kind of took weird trades. But just from what I see, there was a very clear short opportunity on SPFM if you just stayed patient for that backside bounce. You can see that just from the hourly line chart, there was a previous level of resistance at 745s. The stock broke down through that Friday afternoon, so kind of going into that backside pattern. And my thoughts, I posted this on Twitter, that as long as we can hold that overall area as resistance, we should see a further downtrending pattern. And we did have, some volatility. It ran up into the 8s, but notice that that was just where a majority of the volume was on Thursday. So pretty much what happened here was that any longs who were, positioned off that view up area on Thursday just use this bounce as an opportunity to get out for break even. And then you have all the smart shorts who see that backside pattern, see all that volume trapped, and they are now, likely shorted into that test, and now we're swinging it downwards. And you can see this would have paid out massively because even in after hours, it went down into the 5s. So just, once again, everyone trades their own way, but have context of the bigger picture because there was a very nice short opportunity there, and it had a lot of volume in that test too. So you could definitely take it on some pretty decent size. But as far as, SPFM is concerned, I'm no longer interested in this play. Now, keeping with the theme of biotechs, PHIO was one that kind of just came out of nowhere on Friday. They released some positive data at the AACR conference. The news said that the preclinical data exhibited that their drug PH894 inhibits tumor growth in both PD-1 inhibition responsive and PD-1 insensitive models. I don't really know what that means, but obviously the market loved it. Stock has a float of 13 million shares and has an average daily volume before Friday of only 232,000 shares. And on Friday alone, it traded 121 million shares. That's around $235 million of volume. It spiked from 90 cents all the way up to 276. So obviously it's fairly extended, and I'm pretty cautious getting into it too soon. But two main levels I'm watching are number one, the 170 weekly chart level, or if that does not hold, there's also a lower area of support down off of that daily 200 moving average near 144. And there's also a weekly chart level there near 139. So if 170 does not hold, that's an area to look at. Now, something to note is that there is a user on Twitter by the name of ShortCap, and he stated that my team and I can buy the entire company of PHIO with ease. If the stock remains strong on Monday, we will discuss how to scale in and acquire as much of the public shares as possible by next Thursday. No target yet, and he's not long, he disclosed. Now, I have no clue how credible this claim is, but something to keep in mind because this is the same person that bought up SBFM from 5s and made reportedly over $1 million on that stock. So I'm not sure why he would disclose that he's looking to buy up as many shares as possible before even being in, but that could definitely cause some hype for sure, so something to keep an eye on. Another stock I'm looking at is ATER. Now, this one has no news to justify its run up, but it's mainly been targeted due to its high short interest. And I've been waiting for a pullback down to this $4 or $3.80 previous resistance as new support. And that's kind of what I'm still looking for this week. If it happens, great. If it doesn't and it breaks out over 480, then that will be the level that I'll be looking at for a new level of previous resistance as new support. So we'll see if it happens. Now to switch things up real quick, MDVL is one that I'm looking at for a potential short using puts with a clear failed breakout on Friday. So I'll be looking for this to bounce back up and retest that previous level of resistance as resistance again with a hard stop on the break over Friday's high. This is an A+ short setup for me, so definitely looking forward to seeing some backside price action on this one. Very similar to the backside of LGVN, so make sure that you compare those charts. And of course, just sticking with the theme of short ideas, SST was a huge winner for me on Friday. I bought puts off of the rejection of 32 from the hourly chart, and this thing just paid out massively. So I have to understand that, you know, that main dump has kind of come and gone. So I won't be attacking this one too hard because it is a low float. It can squeeze up very easily on low volume, but I will be watching for just simple rejections of the previous support as new resistance on the hourly chart. So something to keep an eye on. So another one on my watch list is NIO. They dropped some pretty bad news on Saturday stating that they are closing down their manufacturing plant after some supply disruptions, mainly caused by another COVID lockdown occurring in Shanghai. So I'm not really too sure how I'm going to trade this one because it really depends on how the morning action is tomorrow. But one key level I'm watching on the hourly chart is this kind of 1524 area. Say we gap down through 1524, I'll be looking for a bounce to reject that area as resistance and load up some puts into that thing. So we'll see if it can happen. One key area I'm looking at is the 1524 weekly chart level. Say we gap down on Monday through that, I'll be looking for a bounce to retest that as resistance, load up some puts and write it on down. Now, like I said, I am still watching DLPN because even though it had a pretty bad, week, since we could possibly see NFTs do something, there seems to be some kind of hype there with, TKAT also running as well. There is a level here near 417 that could hold as support, but this is probably like my least favorite one because I still do think the overall market's gonna, see lots of selling and that could drag Bitcoin down as well. So we'll see if this can hold, but once again, depends on how the price action is tomorrow. So yeah. So that's pretty much what I have set up going into next week. Now, just as a quick reminder, this is just a watch list and a watch list only. There is no guarantee of any of these working out and even no guarantee that I'll take any of these trades. Stuff can change rapidly during the market, so it's always important to have your own plan for whatever you trade. And since I am mainly a small cap trader, lots of my trades do come from pre-market news coming out, so I highly recommend that you follow my Twitter at Tony Avanov because I post there daily on new plays that I'm looking at. Last week, we had some banger trades. I posted that I was shorting SPY off 450. That paid out massively. I posted SBFM, had that short opportunity off at 8. That would have paid off big time if you're a short. I posted that I bought puts on SST off 32, and that paid out massively. And I gave a ton of analysis on SBFM during its frontside move from 5s to the 12 resistance. So make sure to go follow me there for some awesome free analysis. And lastly, if you have any stocks that you're looking at next week, feel free to share with us down below. I only have 2 eyes and I'm sure I missed something, so I would love to hear what you are focusing on. And lastly, if you saw value in this watch list, I would highly appreciate if you could like this video, hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell if you want to be notified of future videos. And I hope you have a safe green week in the markets next week.